Hello, chess friends, welcome back. Today we're talking about the most important aspect of the game of chess, which is calculation. It's a topic I've covered several times. I've already shown you the algorithm for calculating in chess. We've talked about how to train calculation, and we've also talked about the fundamental aspect that we're revisiting today. In fact, today, let's say we're answering this question. How do masters calculate so many moves deep? 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 moves deep, and so on and so forth. Now, there's an aspect of calculation that's often ignored, which is the most important aspect of all, and in my opinion, especially at the early levels, but it's the most important thing in the game, so even later on, it allows us to have a significant increase in our playing strength. I'm talking about visualization. This concept is completely ignored because when we think about calculation, well, we think about exercises. We think, the calculation algorithm. What makes us strong in calculation, what allows us to evaluate 3, 4 moves deep, is indeed the ability to visualize. Today, I'm going to show you a tool to try and work on this aspect. I've already made some videos for you. In these videos, unfortunately, I recommend those very annoying blindfold exercises. I'll tell you right away what the difficulty of all this is. The difficulty is that when I, for example, study an opening, learning an opening, I feel like I've improved because I know one more thing. When I study the middle game, like I don't know how to play with the isolated pawn, there too, I think I've improved because I know something new that I didn't know before. Even when I do exercises on light chess, on chess.com, on chess tempo, somehow there's this score that goes up or down, and so maybe I feel improved if the score increases. Unfortunately, in visualization exercises, including these blindfold exercises, today I won't show you blindfold exercises. For now, let's go with that. I'll give you this spoiler. Unfortunately, when we do this type of exercise, let's say our improvement is very abstract because we can't really measure our improvement, but in reality, this is the most important improvement. And now let's also answer the question of why some young people, let's say, suddenly start playing chess and maybe become very strong in a short time. Well, because visualization can be developed in two ways. There's innate visualization, so we have it, but be careful. Innate visualization doesn't mean that we visualize like a grandmaster. Innate visualization means that potentially maybe we have a visualization ability that's above average. And this leads us to be stronger in chess right away, because in chess, yes, everything is important. Training calculation, recognizing candidates, the algorithm. But if we visualize a position poorly, we won't be able to calculate more than one move. Or if we do, we'll obviously calculate it wrong. So visualization, in my opinion, is the first aspect of calculation. That is, if we're strong in visualization, we'll be strong in all other components. We'll be strong in calculation, strong in tactics, because we'll actually see things better. That said, don't be discouraged. If your innate visualization isn't that strong, it doesn't mean you can't get good. It just means you'll have an initial approach where you'll have to do some training. But don't worry, because those with innate visualization tend to underestimate this aspect. So maybe they don't train much. If you train instead, you'll eventually become stronger than those who at first had better visualization. That said, this isn't just a side note, it's the actual lesson. I want to show you a way to train visualization without straining too much with blindfold exercises. I'm showing you a resource here, but again, this is just as an example for you to see. Maybe at some point, I'll make another video where I specifically suggest some helpful resources and books for this topic, so you can explore them further if you're interested. This is tailored specifically to your skill level, but for today, I really just want to make sure the main message gets across. We will discuss all the details later. This chess book actually offers both the index and some exercises for free, so I am using it here as an example, but we will look at more in a dedicated video. Checkmate in 2 moves exercises to train calculation and visualization. I already made a video recommending endgame studies to improve calculation, which I truly believe is one of the very best methods for this kind of work, especially if you want to really sharpen your skills. However, for those of you who might be struggling with visualization, these exercises, which we'll see are actually quite complex and challenging, can seem a bit overwhelming at first. But don't worry about these either. These exercises are designed to be a bit simpler and more approachable as a first step, so you can gradually build up your confidence and ability. Take your time with them, and remember, the goal is to make steady progress, not to rush through. Why is that? Because a mate in 2 assumes that the game will end in just 2 moves. There is really no need for any kind of strategic or positional calculation, or evaluations that maybe A beginner might evaluate a variation well but get the final assessment wrong, finding the right move but misjudging it. That's not an issue here because the game ends in 2 moves. So the solution is quite objective and not open to debates. Now I'll show you a couple of examples to show the level of difficulty. Anyway, just to give you something to work on at home, I'll scroll through this index so you have these exercises. You can pause and try them. In all of these, white moves first and mates in just 2 moves, assuming the very best play from both sides. I'll show you the second page as well so you can pause and have all 12 of these exercises, which are really great for practice. Now, let's go ahead and put one of them on the board. So I've put one on the board. In this position, we have to give mate in 2. As you can see, obviously the exercise isn't white to move and win, because in all the exercises we might have a huge advantage, okay? I mean, I have an extra queen here, I have a queen and a rook. So here, obviously, the difficulty of the exercise is to give mate in 2 moves. So one might say, oh well, but here I'll take the bishop, then somehow now I'll give him mate with rook and queen. Okay, good job, but that's not the exercise. The exercise is that we must give exactly mate in 2 moves. In 2 is fine, in 3 it's not. So if someone says, oh, but I found it in 3, is that okay too? Absolutely not. The difficulty of the exercise is precisely finding the mate in 2 moves. So in some way we are working on calculation. When we work on calculation, we also work on visualization. But since we only have to see 2 moves deep and therefore in some way also quite objective, because we have to give a mate, in some way, let's say, it makes our visualization process easier, so it can be a first step for those who have difficulty visualizing. I repeat, then there are all the exercises I showed you even blindfolded. You can find the videos which help you from this point of view. Let's start solving these exercises a bit, because I can assure you they are not that simple, which is why maybe I'll go and choose other books with the same type of exercises, but maybe easier. Although honestly, I think you can even start from these difficult ones because, I repeat, they are difficult, but still a mate in 2, so in some way we can find it. I'll show you how the most obvious moves, for example, don't work. Let's say that here I give a check, right? So I start taking away the squares from this king, the king moves away, and now I have to give mate in 2. So the next move must necessarily be checkmate. And here, unfortunately, there is no move that gives checkmate, because anyway, for example, check, at the very least, he can defend with the bishop. Now you might say to me, oh, well, but he loses the piece, I'll take it. No, because you have to give mate in 2. It doesn't matter taking the piece or not taking the piece. The exercise is mate in 2. This right here is not mate, and therefore the exercise is not solved. So in some way, we have to try to be clever, maybe build a mating net. So here, maybe it occurs to us, oh, let's give this check. This way we check the king, defend the rook, and then maybe we can get closer to the possibilities of giving checkmate. And actually, if, let's say, if the king here were to go here, no, actually there's no mate here either. There's no mate here either, because if I give check, I have this square. And in any case, however, the king here can go to this square. And you see, if I, for example, take the bishop with check, it's not mate because he can escape. So the exercise is not solved. To give you a little help for this type of exercise, we often have to create a mating net, and the concept of zugzwang also becomes an important concept. So what exactly is zugzwang? It's a position where our opponent loses no matter what move they make. Remember that here he can obviously only move the king and the bishop, so he doesn't have many moves available. So in some way I can construct a checkmate based on the fact that he must move one of his 2 pieces and cannot simply stay still. And I'll show you here, we've already gone on a bit. The mate is achieved with queen g4. This very nice move that leaves the rook hanging. The problem for black is that the rook cannot actually be captured because queen g8, this, you see, is checkmate. I control all the squares. And so at this point, the king can't do much, because if the king moves to the only square available, which is this one here, he obviously gets this checkmate with the rook. You see, so this is also a mate in 2. And let's look at the hypothetical bishop moves, because only this is left. Bishop g7 and bishop f6 are left. On bishop g7, this time the mate comes via e6, see? I set up queen g4 to then deliver mate on e6, and it's what I was saying earlier. In this position, with white to move, queen e6 isn't mate because he plays king g7. The fact that he's forced to move means he puts the bishop where he shouldn't and gets mated. Same thing if he puts it here, queen g8 mate. Again, note that if he hadn't moved, queen g8 isn't mate because there's king f6. So sometimes these mate combinations are achieved thanks to zugzwang. Obviously, these are complicated mates in 2, but I repeat, it's the type of exercise I want you to learn, then maybe we'll see simpler ones. Maybe I'll suggest some other resources. But in these positions, the moves to calculate are relatively few and quite objective. So for those without strong visualization, this is the first step before doing more complex things. Along with the blindfold exercises that I've divided by level so you can do those as well. And let's look at this other exercise. Here too, it's very similar to the previous one, meaning at the moment, the king, if we give check, can escape. If we bring our king closer, I can easily move the bishop on check. I move away on check here. I have all the squares I want. So this one is really hard. Again, pause if you want. And the solution here, very elegant and also very similar to the previous one, honestly, is rook 1 with the idea of creating this zugzwang, because as soon as he moves the bishop, say bishop to e2, in this position, another zugzwang is created because he had to put the bishop here and thus freed up this possibility. And this here is mate. Obviously, if the rook is taken, there's queen d2 mate. And let's see other moves. Bishop g2, exactly like the previous exercise. This time I checkmate him on the other side with queen on e3. So you see, I put these two exercises on the same theme, a bit nice. But what I'm interested in is that you get this concept. That is, let's say that visualization is the most important aspect to be able to calculate deeper. And so one of the first exercises we have to do, which will give us a lot in chess, are visualization exercises. I've already shown you, I repeat, the blindfold exercises, and also these mate and twos help us in this regard. So try them. Let me know if you already knew this training theme, and tell me how you like the other exercises I put before, so you have another 10 to be able to solve. And that's it. As always, if you want to support the channel, subscribe, tactical like, and positional comment, and I'll see you in all the next videos.